All right, I'm going to share screen. So we're talking about how to prepare for a virtual career fair. Give me a thumbs up. What do I see, Frank? Can you see my screen? I need a yes.
You started sharing, but I don't see anything. It just says Janet Warren, she hers has started sharing.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, let's see.
I can see it now.
Okay, thank you. So I also have tips in here for when we go back to in-person fairs, because why the heck would you want to go to another workshop, right? So let's get this going. So what happens at a career fair? So pre-COVID, if you see sort of the gray screen in the back, this is a picture I took of the basement in the campus center, which was filled with maybe 800 people. So when I was working, I host the life sciences fair. There was no way in heck I was putting 800 people in the basement of the campus center. But employers are doing the same thing on virtual fairs. It's just, there's opportunity everywhere. You get to meet students, they gather resumes. Some will actually have jobs, internships, and co-ops, wherever I put the word jobs. And some are looking for the future. Some are recruiters from a big company trying to fill 1 or 2 positions, but then they'll tell you where to go, like at Thermo Fisher or that kind of thing. And students are there to get their information, learn about employers, because what if you're a first year, you're not sure, you're ready, go and learn for the future. And many of these employers come back each year, the same one. So they'll call me, I need this student, I need that student. So during COVID, it's the same thing going on. We're just doing it virtually. And there are some pluses, like you're not in a room with 800 people where it gets really hot. You're not standing on lines. The downside that I see, and I want to be honest and tell you what that is you can't do what I call a drive-by, which is walking through and listening to what other people are saying and hearing. That part goes away. Excuse me. But you're still going to meet employers. You're still going to get the chance to learn about jobs, internships, and co-ops. And this could lead to an interview. So it's still a room full of possibility, or a screen full of possibility.
Is it in a group? Is it just you and her?
If you could mute yourself, I'm okay if people unmute if you have a question. But okay, whoops, I hit something. So the last slide, there is all the career fairs we have had this fall. I'm not even touching the remote now. Hold on one sec. I also have computer problems, and a new computer's been ordered. All right, maybe it will stay. You should know that every fall, the career fair schedule looks very similar to this, 99% the same. So if you miss the nonprofit fair and you're interested in nonprofits, know that it'll be back in the fall, maybe in the spring. So I've circled the 3 that are coming up. Civil and environmental engineering is Friday, tomorrow. That is good for building and construction technology, environmental science, and geosciences, geography, geology, that kind of thing. All students can go to all fairs, and you should think very broadly about what fairs are good for you. Just because it's called the Eisenberg Career Fair doesn't necessarily mean, let me do a laser pointer. Oh, there's my pointer. Boy, all right, this isn't going well. It's very slow. Doesn't mean that you have to be an Eisenberg major. There are great opportunities there for psych majors, for math majors, and others. The Life Science and Biotech Career Fair, which I know the most about because I work on that all year, and is happening next week and is open for scheduling. And then we have the Psych Career Fair. There will be other fairs in the fall. There'll be a psych from CNS, there'll be a Psych Career Fair. There'll be another Building and Construction Technology Career Fair, and there'll be a Sustainability Career Fair in probably early March. So here's what we're going to talk about. And this is what it takes to be really prepared for a career fair, all of these things. This is not a resume workshop. Some of you may have gone to see Joe Van Allen present yesterday. If you need help with resumes, at this point, you should see a career peer advisor. I'll talk about that. But all of these things are what's needed to prepare, and we're going to talk about them. So you should all be aware that our career center has peer advisors every day, 11 to 5, no appointment needed. Just stop into our career center and meet with them. Most of the time, they're not busy. And if you wait till the day before the life sciences career fair, they'll be busy. So get your resume proofed, edited, that kind of thing. While you can always make an appointment in Handshake to see a professional advisor, I know they're pretty booked up. All right. Here's how career fair works in Handshake. You come on screen. You open your Handshake. Everyone has a Handshake account. Handshake is the university's career platform for everyone. You go to events, and then you go to career fair. And then all the career fairs that are coming up pop up. So I did these screenshots today, so you should see these. So all you need to do is bookmark the fair to start receiving emails from the system about any changes to the fair. So today I spent a lot of time reaching out to those companies that are already booked. The fair opened yesterday for students to start scheduling their meetings. And we're going to talk about that. Some of the companies filled up the first day because I've been hyping it if you're reading my emails. So I've asked every one of them to add more sessions, group or one-on-ones. It's up to them if they do that. You will get notified when that happens. I still have one company that says, I still want to sign up. You'll get notified. So bookmark the psychology career fair if you want to hear what's going on there. So you need to research companies and check available sessions. So we're going to talk a lot about that. So the next screen you get after you click on that you're interested in it, it's this. It will show available sessions. So here's an example of one. eClinicalWorks is looking for interns and full-time hires. You can read about them. When I looked at this today, there were 14 open one-on-one sessions. If someone's interested, open it now and tell me how many are still left. Once you start booking them, you'll have a schedule as well. So some companies have one-on-one, like Amgen here. Amgen had a lot of sessions, and some organizations and companies only did group sessions. So if you're a pre-med or think you're pre-med, UMass Med School only did group sessions, which is great for them. They can say the same thing to more people, but some have both. And as I said, some filled up, some one-on-ones filled up, and there'll be group sessions. Group sessions are really good if you're not sure what to do. If you're a first-year student and you haven't done a career fair before, you might want, it's like going in a big room and sitting in the back. I mean, you can always ask questions, but it's great if you're not sure. It's also great if you can't get a one-on-one, so you know something more about the company and you can meet a recruiter. So as far as the tech goes in Handshake, I put 2 articles there. If you came in late, they're not going to show up. I will repeat the articles in the chat because I don't see the chat right now. And here's one of the articles about the video requirements. So as far as the career fairs go, Handshake tells us it's better to do it on your computer than your phone. If you're going to do it on your phone, use the Handshake app and not just from the web. Use Chrome or Firefox, not Safari is not supported. In Handshake, if you go back and forth between Zoom and Handshake, you always have to reset your sound. So when you go into Handshake, into a video screen, on the bottom left of video, if you can't be heard, there's speaker settings. You can sign into your meetings 5 minutes before your session, so check your speakers then. You should complete your Handshake profile and upload your resume. This is how the recruiters are going to see your resume. If you don't have it and you can get it done this week and get it checked by a peer advisor, great. If that's not going to happen, it's still okay. to make an appointment at the career fair. I want you to get the practice. I want you to have the opportunity, because this is one of the best ways to land an internship, a co-op, or a job, meeting them here. That doesn't mean you're going to get it here. That means you're starting the process. They might like you. They'll tell you how to apply. It's always through a system. Students often get upset because they want to get a job right there. It doesn't work that way, right? You have to apply. You will be prompted by Handshake when you set a meeting to change your settings, your privacy settings to community if you go to a group session, because you can't attend the group session without that, because you're going to be with other students like this. It's a group. If you're just meeting one-on-ones, you just have to set it to employer, but you'll be prompted. So this link, these words, if you type them into Handshake Help, will pull up help articles. And when I'm done, I'll put them in the chat again. So that's the tech getting set up. Research companies. We're going to talk more about questions, but companies don't want to talk to students who haven't put in the work to know what they do. You have to know what they do. So one of the ways to research them is in Handshake, go to the particular companies. And then I have all these other ways you can research them. You can just Google them, go to their website, learn what their opportunities are, learn what their mission statement is. I hosted an info session Tuesday of this week with Johnson & Johnson. They called it their credo. And you couldn't really interview successfully with them without talking about their credo, why they do what they do, what's important, that kind of thing. So you will get that from the website. Connect on LinkedIn if you have that with former interns, people who work there, alumni, asking what the company's about. I know you're not going to be able to do all of this before Wednesday. At the minimum, Google them and look on their website. Because what if the day before big news comes out that Takeda Pharmaceuticals bought another company, which is what happened last year. I'm blanking on the name of the company. To not know that when you're meeting with someone from Takeda Pharmaceuticals shows you're not prepared. So as you do the research on the companies, create notes. I should have mentioned that all of the pictures are taken from in-person fairs at UMass Amherst. So this is what happens when we're in person. Hopefully, we'll have at least some of our smaller fairs in person next semester. Another way to do a deeper dive in research is to use the databases at the libraries. Hoover's Guide is a guide on all company profiles. That's super deep dive. It's just if you're that kind of person, you're going to be thorough. But going to the website, Googling them is a really good start. So the next thing we have to think about is, what the heck are you going to say when you meet them? So if it's a group session, they will probably talk first and say a little bit about the company, a little bit about the programs they have, or the positions they're hiring for, be it internships, co-ops, or jobs. But if you're meeting one-on-one, it's like a Zoom meeting, one-on-one. It's just in the Handshake platform. What you say is called the elevator pitch. In an in-person fair, it looks like that. In a virtual fair, it looks like that, even though I said don't do it on your phone. It's just very hard to snip a picture. So you prepare your elevator pitch around what are the essential things that someone needs to know about you professionally, your skills, your interest, your experience that relates to the company. How can you quickly share who you are, establish some rapport, right? So if I was meeting someone for an internship, a job, or a co-op today, even though you haven't met me, I'd say, gee, I have a cold. I sound like a frog. I squeak sometimes. I'm sorry. You're like, I'm just breaking the ice. But you have to be mindful that you only have 10 minutes. So then you say who you are and what you're all about. It's called an elevator pitch because it's the kind of thing you get to say in an elevator. If the CEO of your favorite company is there and you want a job, what would you say to this person on an elevator ride? So you would need to be very brief, Be interesting, right? Who doesn't want to talk? Everyone wants to talk to someone interesting, not someone who doesn't have any personality or something like that. Be informative, tell them what you offer. And I often hear students say, well, what do I offer? I'm a student. So let's think about all the things students have. Academic skills for sure, and then all kinds of professional skills. Sometimes they're referred to as soft skills, but these are professional skills. Time management, organizational skills, and if you've ever had a starter, I'm squeaking, a starter job, working in a supermarket, working as a camp counselor, working as a tutor, working as, any number of things. I said camp counselor already, working in a restaurant, a hostess. You have professional skills from there, dealing with customers. They want to know this. They want to hire people who've had jobs. Maybe you're a tutor, a TA, maybe you're an RA, those kinds of things. You want to come across as polished and professional and not robotic that you've said it so many times. Here are some examples. I see a few names and I'm going to ask you to unmute and read it. Dylan, can you read this for me so I can save my voice?
Yes, I can do that. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Aaron Charawati, and I'm a junior environmental sciences major at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. I've studied experiences as a lab assistant working on a national forest survey, as well as lab work in biology and chemistry and geology fieldwork. In addition, I am skilled in ArcGIS, and I work as a tutor to help middle school students learn GIS. I'd like to talk with you about your summer internship opportunities. Can you tell me what skills would make an excellent intern for this position?
Thank you, Dylan. This is an elevator pitch. I should have timed it. It could have been 30 seconds. You'll probably never get to say all that. So an elevator pitch is something you have, and then you adapt it to every setting. In LinkedIn, you're going to adapt it in your connection messages. But you talk a little bit about your major, your classwork, any skills that you have. The next one, Dylan, you're on a roll, so I'm going to ask you to read this one as Aaron Charawati too.
All right. So, hi, my name is Aaron Charawati, and I'm a junior environmental sciences major at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. I'm hoping to get some experience next summer to apply the skills I've learned in my lab classes in chemistry and geology. I'm learning ArcGIS, and I would love the chance to use it in fieldwork. I would like to talk with you about your summer internship program. Can you tell me what skills would make an excellent intern for this position?
Thank you again. So here's someone who doesn't have outside experience except for lab classes, which is key for any science student who says they have no skills. You do have skills. You have lab skills and you have collaboration skills and you're working with people different than you. It's always good to end your elevator pitch with a question. So then you throw it back at them. As soon as you say this, they'll ask you questions. They might say, what do you know about the company? If you say nothing, you're in trouble. They only want to talk to people who have done a little bit of research. So even if you've set meetings up already with companies and you don't know that much about them, you have until the time of your meeting. All right. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Everyone start writing their elevator pitch, because I know that if you don't do it now, you may not get to it. And for all those who have their cameras off, if you could turn your camera on, it's helpful to me. Unmute yourself and just say if you've done an elevator pitch before. Anyone do an elevator pitch? That's why we're going to do 3 minutes of an elevator pitch. What would you say when you're meeting me, the employer, from Takeda Pharmaceuticals, Pfizer? I got the whole list. And I say, hi, tell me about yourself. Beam Therapeutics, Broad Institute. Relevant things you can add. If you're first generation student, I would add that. Say I'm a first generation student. They like to hear that. If you speak multiple languages, say that. If mention lab equipment, if it's for a lab job or internship. If you're an athlete, say that. It's not your full resume. It's like the top 10 hit lists. What are the best 10 items about you? If you work part-time in a job, even if it's blue wall dining services, that's okay. They'd rather people who have skills and work. It's going to help you. Anyone have any questions so far? Customer service is a good skill. If you've worked in retail, you've solved customers' problems. You work at Starbucks as a barista. I'm sure you have people complain a lot. It's too hot. It's too cold. Yada, yada, yada. Right? That means you have excellent customer service skills, solving problems of the guests you work with. All right, one more minute. Then I'm going to ask someone to share, knowing you just had 3 minutes to work on it. Like the beauty of a workshop, let's just do it now. Who would like to read what they have so far? We know it's a work in progress. Anyone who doesn't have their camera on, maybe? Or does have their camera on?
I can share if no one else wants to
Okay.
go.
Dylan, you're on a roll. Thank you.
Um,
And we're all
all
going
right.
to see what we think and how we can add, even though we just met Dylan. All right. What do you got?
All right, so I wrote, hello, my name is Dylan McLaughlin, and I'm a junior biochemistry and molecular biology student at UMass Amherst. I work as a research assistant at the Vierling Lab here on campus, studying small heat shock proteins and Arabidopsis thaliana. I'm also a peer mentor in the biochem department. I'd love to hear more about your summer internship opportunities. What does an ideal candidate for this position look like?
That was excellent. Because he had stuff to say, right? I mean, I know there's some of you who are like, what the heck am I going to say? He's a peer mentor and he's worked in a lab. What I really liked about it is, in addition to saying what lab you worked in, because that doesn't mean anything to anyone, you said what the lab does. And that was like 15 seconds. If you have a super high GPA, like over 3.5, say it, right? This isn't the place to be all shy. This is the place to tell them what makes you stand out. Gabby, is that a field hockey stick behind you?
Oh, it's a lacrosse stick. It's
Lacrosse.
not mine.
Oh, shucks. Right, because you could say, oh, and I play whatever position someone would play in lacrosse. Right, that's interesting, just different. Answering with a question, you could also, ending with a question, you could also say something like, I noticed in Handshake, or I noticed on your website, you have such and such a position. I'm interested in that. I have this skill, that skill. I'm just starting with Java programming. What do you think? That kind of thing. Or you can say, I noticed you had no positions up, right? If they have none, they have none. I've been working with these companies for 6 months to get their schedules up, to get their positions up. There's just so much I could do. So sometimes they just want to recruit and see good students. Say, what positions are you looking for? Here's what I'm interested in. That's okay. If we had more time, we could do this for an hour, but I wanted to get you started. Here's what you can do if you want. You can work on it. Go meet with a career peer advisor when 11 to 5 every day in the Career Center and run your elevator pitch by them. So this is just one thing among a few that you need to do to get ready for the career fair. Got it? Okay, we're going to move on. I can get my computer to move forward. All right, preparing questions in advance. So in Dylan's case, he asked the first question. They're going to ask some other questions. But at the end, they often say, do you have questions for me? You have to have questions for them. You have to have shown you've done the research. So here are some questions you could ask. What do you enjoy most about working for this company? How have top candidates distinguished themselves in the past, right? What's going to separate you from Dylan, your biochem, from all the other biochem majors who are going to apply? What are the biggest challenges for someone in this position? What might someone enjoy? What's a typical day like? This one I really like. What skills do you think I should be acquiring to be better positioned for obtaining this internship or co-op? So if you were a first-year student, and really, to be honest, they don't often want first-year students. We do have many freshmen who get internships and co-ops, but it's a long shot because they prefer juniors than sophomores. So you could be doing some networking and seeing how can you position yourself to be a better candidate in the next year or so, or even maybe their hiring isn't going to happen till April. There's a company coming doing 2 info sessions, Karyopharm Therapeutics. They told me they're really not going to hire until April. There are other companies that are like, if you went to a Regeneron info session, they're going to be done with their full-time hires and their interns by the end of November. They're done. They're just done. So you can be acquiring some skills to better position you for an internship or co-op. One of the ways you can acquire some skills is LinkedIn Learning. UMass Amherst has a license for all students to get free courses. Go to the Du Bois Library website and click on a LinkedIn Learning link, and you could add some skills there. Mention something you saw in the news. I saw in the news that your company just acquired XYZ. How does that impact your work? What is that going to show them? You did your research. How hard was that? Easy. You Googled the name of the company, you looked on their website. So that means you're on top of things. They always want those kinds of students. All right, questions to avoid. What does your company do? I think I've made that clear. They don't want to hear that. Fudge it if you have to. That means you don't care enough. So from students' perspectives, I know that many of you want an internship or co-op, and it doesn't really matter where, or it does matter where. They don't want to hear that. You have to be specific about them. So even if you have 10 meetings set up for the life sciences fair or any other fair, each one, you have to make it seem like this is the company for me. I want an internship here because you do X, Y, Z, and my values match your credo, etc. What positions can I apply for? If it's on Handshake or if it's on their website, that's good. If you've done that research and you can't find positions and they're there, that means they still want to hire. If they're there, they want to hire. So you can say, I can't find, that's the only time that's a valid question to ask. Do you require a background check? Like if you have an issue in your background, don't be bringing it up now in these kinds of meetings. That's later on for when they really like you and want to hire you, so they're vested. You don't ask anything about salary and benefits. You do some research on your own. That comes about when you get an offer. So it's a little bit of a dance. You go to an interview, they ask you questions, you like them, you write thank you notes. You never ask about salary and benefits. And anything you can find on the company's front page. All right, professional dress. Do you have to dress professionally? Absolutely. So there are a number of people who've been on or off with masks. If you're at work, we get that. Try and pick a time where you don't have to wear a mask and you could be somewhere private, but you definitely have to dress professionally. I have some examples of gender non-conforming clothes, anything neat, clean that isn't, as my Johnson & Johnson scientist said the other night, not a Guns N' Roses t-shirt, right? It doesn't have to be a suit, but just look neat and clean and you're fine. Oh, and make sure you have pants on. So this is Will Reeve, Christopher Reeve, who played Superman's son. He was caught on Good Morning America. They did a wide shot looking like this. He tweeted the next day, "They're shorts, I promise." You know, could have been boxers. I don't even want to see shorts. No one wants to, right? So don't get caught like him. Make sure you've got something decent on. You're like, what if your cat opens the door in your room and you have to bend down, which we don't want a distraction, but let's focus on what you have to say and not whether Will Reeve is wearing shorts or boxers. It's pretty funny. All right, career fair etiquette. This is in person or virtual. Cell phone off. So what if you forgot to put your cell phone off? So if it's on buzz, they probably can't hear it. Just ignore it. But if it rings, you can just be honest, be authentic and said, "Oh my God, I forgot to turn my phone off." I've done this in workshops. I've talked and my phone literally rings right about when I say this. And it's usually one of my kids who was saying, "What's for dinner?" And I would just say, "I can't believe I didn't turn off my phone. How silly of me. Let's move on." Right? Be honest. Look them in the eye. So this is a hard thing. So if I look at my camera, I'm looking now. You tell me if it looks like I'm looking at you. The few faces that are on, I'd rather look like this so I see your faces because we're all looking for connection. So Rebecca, will you look at your camera? See, that looks, everyone see Rebecca? It looks like she's looking, look at the camera again. Yeah, looks like she's looking right at us. That's the best way. You don't have to do it the whole time. I find it very, very hard because I'd rather look at the faces. Make sure the recruiter has your resume, which in this case would be uploaded into Handshake. Don't always wait for the recruiter to start talking. Don't interrupt. I mean, if you're having a conversation, you'll go back and forth. But if an in-person fair, sometimes there are these long lines. Get this out of the way. I didn't mean to do that. And people are waiting, and then sometimes they bunch up people. So try not to interrupt your fellow classmates who are each trying to get some airtime. So in the one-on-one meetings, you have 10 minutes. There's like a countdown clock. Don't forget to ask for contact info because you're going to want to send a thank you note, which is also coming up in the rules. You need to stand out and say thank you. So develop your game plan. What are you going to do? You're going to research companies. You're going to sign up in advance of the fair for meetings. If you're planning to go to the Life Sciences and Biotech Career Fair next Wednesday and you haven't signed up yet, go. Many of the companies are filled already. They filled the first day. Bookmark the fair the way I showed you. Anything opens, go look each day. Clean up your social media because some companies will check your social media. So if you have anything left over from high school with some drunken, silly acts, you don't want them to see that. So take that down. Think about what you'll say. Obviously, be flexible on how the conversation goes and decide which companies, if you have the choice, you're going to meet one-on-ones or group meetings. At an in-person fair, arrive early so that you can get a lay of the land, and some of the companies leave on the early side. I always say go alone because sometimes I see students come in bunches to the fair and they get nervous and they psych each other out. Like, do your thing. You do you. You know which companies you want to go to. Practice being confident, staying positive. We have floor maps at a in-person fair, so you can map out which ones you want to go to, and then you can choose to start, excuse me, start with warm-up companies, so companies that aren't your top choice. You can practice that elevator pitch and see how it goes, and then hit your top companies, second or third. They want to see personality. So smile, laugh, say, "Oh, my phone, how embarrassing. Janet told me that shouldn't happen," that kind of thing. I know all those recruiters who are coming. I ask great questions, listen to what they have to say. So this is the thing you can't do in a virtual fair, but in a in-person fair, and we get go to any fairs you can, even if it's not specifically for you, and listen to what the recruiters say, listen to what students say. You will learn a lot about what they're looking for. And usually the recruiters are looking for more than they checked off on the box to fill out to come to the fair. So if a company interests you, go meet them. We talked about that. Don't just drop off your resume in person, like make an interaction and then ask for a business card or LinkedIn, or when it's virtual, for an email. Can I follow up with you? Here's the follow-up. So this is from an earlier fair we had in September, Arts and Humanities. Because it's on Handshake, there's all these chat features that are fairly new to Handshake. So you could send a message right here. I don't know if you see this bar that keeps getting in my way. You could send a message to the person that you spoke to. Say it was great to meet you. We're going to talk about what you put in there. You could apply for internships. If they have on-campus interviews, they'll let you know. If they have info sessions coming up, some will come again, go. Many of the recruiters come each year, and they sometimes do more than one event. So if one of these companies comes back to what we call Career Blast in February, which is an all university, all majors fair, go if you can, because they'll remember you, or you will remind them of who you are. And then connect with the recruiter on LinkedIn. Remember, you have to distinguish yourself from the other 30 to 30 people they saw that day. So your follow-up when you leave is to organize your notes, however you do that, create a follow-up system, your thank you email. So a thank you email, some people do a handwritten note, after a fair should be within 1 day. If it's at another event, it can be up to a week. But they've seen so many students, they're still always impressed when people send a thank you note, which means some students aren't. Reference something you discussed that's specific to you. If you say only, thank you for meeting me yesterday at the UMass Amherst Fair. I really enjoyed our conversation and I look forward to applying. Who is that? There's nothing in there that's specific to you. You could say, I really enjoyed when we talked about that last summer's internship project on gene editing. And I hope my lab experience from my Bio 101 lab or 151 lab, it's something specific. An informational interview is exactly what it sounds like. You aren't asking for a job or an internship, you're learning about the company and the industry. So if this is someone who might help you further on, you say, can we talk, at another time? Because maybe they say you're not a fit. You say, well, I'd really like to explore that more. Do you have other people I should talk to? Right? Everyone you talk to in this realm can be a networking contact for the future. So on LinkedIn, and there's a LinkedIn workshop coming up. You can see it on Handshake. You can see it in my newsletter going out tonight. You can connect with people who might say, oh, I know some people who would be good for you to talk to because you're more interested in this. If you follow up and you don't hear from them, you could follow up like 1 or 2 more times. Just don't be annoying. If they say, oh, you should apply, the application deadline's October 31st, you can say, great, I'll apply. What's the timeline? What happens next? Oh, you should hear from us in a month. So then 5 weeks later, you can write, I haven't heard. It can be a hard thing when you don't hear back from companies. They're all short-staffed. So figure out the fine line between persistent and annoying. I want to ask my friend Frank over here who had bronchitis already. Do you think I sound like I have bronchitis?
Yeah, it sounds like you might have the beginnings of it.
Yeah, it just-
Beginnings do also sound like just like regular flu, but yeah, get it checked anyways.
We were talking about this before he started. Okay. Here's the summary. Prepare for the fair. Find out which employers are attending. It's already up there. Research the companies. Work on your elevator pitch. Dress professionally. Find a quiet spot with a neutral background or put it on a virtual. Oh, you can't do virtual handshake. Excuse me. It's on one of those screens. There's no virtual. That's a shame. We've put in a request to handshake to do that. Sometimes we have people in closets. You do what you have to do. There are places in Goodell, Central Career Services on the 5th floor, and you could ask them about using one of their sort of cubicles for career fairs. Check audio settings. I ask questions. Remember to send a thank you note and apply to open positions by the deadlines. Here's another tip. If a deadline says December 30th, don't wait till December 29th. They might fill the position beforehand. If they get good candidates beforehand, they're done. Will they take down the posting? Maybe not. So know that the sooner you apply, the better. Here's just a graphic to remind you of our December psychology career fairs. And I'm going to open it up for questions. What do you think? Can you do this? You definitely can do this. I'm recopying the articles into the chat for anyone, because I wasn't paying attention. Who's in, who's out. That one. It's on tech and how to work a fair. It's really quite easy. Have you been in Handshake? Yes, no. What's up in the chat? Right, if you haven't been in Handshake, go in and play around. Jenny, no. Okay. Go to our website. Type it in the chat. This is the Career Center in Talk. College of Natural Sciences. I can get rid of the slideshow. All right, what questions do you have? Here's the link directly to Handshake. So everything career related at the university is at Handshake. Jobs, internships, co-ops, career fairs, employer information sessions. Who here reads the Thursday night 8 p.m. newsletter I send out? Now you know about a Thursday night 8 p.m. newsletter I send out. I highlight things coming up in from Handshake, employer info sessions. I put in the Eisenberg business minor. The application opens November 1. You know, things that would be relevant to students. We have Liberty Mutual actuarial stuff. We have lots of jobs and internships. So it sort of comes right to you. And I hope that students just zip down looking at it to see what's pertinent to them. Because if, as you know, we're CNS, we're really big. We have 25 majors. So I like to put a little something in for all of our majors. All right, there's a question. How do I make a 60-second pitch? So is that different than a 30-second pitch? If you're asking what you say, it's everything I just reviewed. It's also in our handbook. Oh, that would have been a good thing to show. Hold on one second. On our webpage, oh, it's hard to see with the virtual background. Let's see, hold on. See her. See something. We have a handbook. It's on the webpage. If I put the CNS career webpage, it tells you all. It tells you everything: resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, how to do a pitch. So going back to the pitch is what maybe this person joined late. You talk about who you are and what your skills are, your name, your year, your major, what your skills are, academic skills, technical skills, as well as professional skills, meaning time management and things like that. So look in here. If you can't see it, career handbook on our website. Anyone else? Wait, I got a question. I plan to look for jobs for gap years before attending graduate school. Should I include this in my elevator pitch? Thank you. Good question. So some companies really know there's a lot of science students that are doing gap years, 1 or 2 years, and their jobs are for them. For example, companies that are coming to our fair that I know off the top of my head would include Beam Therapeutics does that, Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, Boston Children's Hospital, Charles River Labs, maybe. They know that some people want 1 or 2 year positions. So do a little bit of research and see if they're advertising as 1 or 2 year positions. If not, don't mention it, right? So you go for 2 years and then you switch or you quit and go to grad school. Should I include this in my elevator pitch? It depends. That's the research. But it's a really good question. Also, if you're thinking of going to grad school, Albany Medical Recruiting Station will be doing some sessions for scholarships. Eisenberg on their graduate programs is having some sessions, and UMass Medical School, if you're interested in that, has some sessions. Other questions or thoughts? What is hard about this for anyone? So that
I believe it's like trying to stay really calm and like
trying to see.
answer their question.
All right.
Because
Yep, keep going.
oftentimes when they like shoot a question, it's often like worries me.
So trying to stay calm. That's why you want to practice your elevator pitch aloud. In a 10-minute meeting, my guess is they're not going to shoot crazy questions at you. This isn't an interview. That's a whole other process. So we have tools to help you practice interviewing in this handbook that you can barely see because of my virtual background. There's questions in there. On our web page, there's a whole tab on interviewing with a tool called Elevator Pitch, Big Interview. It's the best thing going. It's video telling you how to answer questions. And then you could record yourself and see yourself. So if you're one of the people who like flicks your pen or curls your, you would see that if you say a lot. You could also meet with a career peer advisor or a professional counselor in our career center and practice a mock interview. If you bring in a job description, we could guess 90% of the questions you're gonna be asked. Could you potentially get a crazy, I had a peer advisor actually who said one of his interviews, he got a question, if you could be an animal, what would you be? Like, this is just the most ridiculous question. He was interviewing for mass eye and ear research assistant position. I don't think they really care about the answer. They want to see how you think on your feet. So this is part of the career process. You don't always have success 100% of the time. This is part of life. This is part of being a college student, right? You win some, you lose some. We're really in a hard period now, maybe not as bad as it was last year, but wearing masks, masks on, masks off. I have a cold. I can't be on campus. I have 2 negative COVID tests, right? This is hard. Things don't always go our way. So you're going to have to get a few interviews in and just think of it as practice, as getting towards the next step in your career development. It's part of life. Good question. Anyone else have a question or a thought? You know what?
Can I have one last question?
You could ask. I'm going to hold on 1 second, because what I want to do is turn off the recording. Make sure it's not recording.